Hey guys, talk about TRNR long. Didn't make any trades Friday, so didn't make a video. But market open long. Not everything about this is actually super nice. Maybe except the market open volume was a little low. Kind of didn't break 400k, 500k. But probably I don't know. I saw 4 or 5 people in my room hit this long at the same level I did because the book was really nice. Had a lot of nice things going for it. So in my Discord, which you can sign up through my Patreon, I posted what I like to see in market open longs. I kind of had a criteria and what I don't like to see. It's kind of like because avoiding bad trades is as important as hitting good ones. And a lot of the criteria I talk about is, I like to see walk downs in the market open, right? Controlled lower highs in the market open. I also like stocks that are only up, maybe 50% or less, which just fit that criteria, right? So everything about, and we had a concept I talked about on this YouTube before was fake VWAP resistance, where market makers will purposely make VWAP seem really heavy and then rotate through it. We saw it actually today at NBIO. Didn't trade NBIO. If you want to learn more about longing pennies, follow Mikey Underdog. He's also in my description on my YouTube. So if the link doesn't work, just search Mikey Underdog in the YouTube search bar. You can learn more about pennies. But a lot of my wheelhouse tends to be low floats above $2. Even though I will try pennies. I'm always down to try. But yeah, TNR 1 minute 200. Again, also what we really like to see, if a stock pushes at 930, 931, I like to see a knife, right? I don't like to chase green candles at 930, 931. I want to see a knife, and ideally a knife's into a bunch of bids that hold, and ideally it starts to rotate and more bids follow it up. So this had pretty much everything going for it, except for the market open volume was a little low, so a few people in my room did pass on it. Don't blame them, right? Sometimes you just got to make your own read. But we'll go over, we'll go over the chart first. So I want to compare two pre-market structures, right? Because we saw two similar charts, and I pointed this out in my Discord in pre-market about why I thought TRNR could be a little better than SNCI. So these were kind of the two SCNI. These were kind of the two gappers, right? And they both had these walkdowns, these controlled walkdowns into market open, which could be very strong, right? Especially we learned in low float land, ultra aggressive dumps from high a day could be short traps, or at least lead to some type of backside liquidity push, right? People chase, their averages are really bad. It rotates, swipes them, pulls, that type of thing. But the problem with SNCI is that if we go here, it already ran from 2.67 all the way to 7.7 in the pre-market. And not only that, we already had multiple aggressive short squeezes, right, on relative up only. And I always say that, in pre-market, you really don't want to see huge aggressive extension when playing the market open long, right? Especially this type of play, starts from 3, goes up 150%. And now it's pulling back, and it's opening up, I think, up 70, 80% on the day. Stuff's not good. You don't want to see earlier pre-market parabolics for the market open long, right? It's usually way lower odds. So especially, I have a video on my Patreon called Counting Structures, and it's kind of a helpful, rule of thumb to kind of how to view structures in low floats, where you're essentially counting from the first pullback, which would be this, how many short squeezes has it had, and this is already 2. And not only that, you're looking how aggressive it is, right? How many lower highs, how aggressive is it pushing? Overall, the more times it pushes and the more aggressive it pushes, the worse of a market open long it is, right? When we go to there, this is a little different. This is a little different because this is much grindier, right? Yeah, you could say this is 1 squeeze, 2 squeeze, so it's the same, but the price action is much more grindy, right? You're just getting it's up 25% here, 30% here, 35%. It's not making these aggressive 20, 30% short squeeze moves. it's just grinding to new highs, pulling back, grinding to new highs, grinding to new highs. And then I always like to see a lack of a long trap liquidity move, right? Where something that could be bearish would be if it bounced off to 1 minute 50, gave a big long trap rotation and, fading into market open with no volume, right? But for example, this just went, whenever a stock, is super grindy, making new highs on increasing volume, we see some nice increasing volume, even though this pre-market volume is not overly impressive. I assume grindy higher highs to be a sign of accumulation, right? So I like this pre-market structure a lot more than SNCI. It's not up as much as SNCI. And here's the VWAP projections, right? Now, I had some people try to long this in my room in the pre-market. I will say, overall, you don't want to try pre-market longs on plays trading really thin volume like this, right? We're getting like a lot of sub 10K, 15K candles down here. Only time I really long in the pre-market if there's like consistent Momo, right? If it's like hundreds of thousands of shares per minute, setting short traps, pulling backs, which we really haven't got. We haven't that type of low flow pre-market manipulated runner. Hasn't really happened in the past couple of weeks. We've been getting price action like this. So anyway, the 930 candle rejects, we get a massive knife to the 1 minute 200. So kind of like my NVVE long, 1 minute 200 is nice if the structure is nice, right? This was only up about 45% down here. We got controlled lower highs. We got fake VWAP resistance. And then, then we'll go to the book. That's NBIO. NBI was very interesting today. I enjoyed watching it and not doing anything. But yeah, so super nice book. I mean, just really, really, really nice. So here's the 930. Again, I like to see the pullback. Also, it's just easier to soak shares, right? And then look at the bid support on this, man. 430 becomes a main level. Big seller gets absorbed, right? And something I do like to see is I was talking with Mikey about this today. We had a private call that we will share with our, Mikey has a room. I have a room. It's part of the content that we share with only the room. We don't share it on our YouTube channels. But one thing we talk about is I really like to see if you're trying to time, a manipulated long to the upside. I really like to see on these, you get these quick pullbacks and the bids get filled. And then sometimes it makes another lower low, but I like it when that same level gets bids restacked on it. So usually the bid gets taken out, makes a low, it comes back up, they restack the bid. And this was so nice. You had so much time. I longed in at 933, 934. So nice to make a read, right? Bounce, especially market open. Moves can happen super quick. But I don't like it when it's too quick. I don't like it when it just taps something and starts. Like if this started ripping right here, I wouldn't have been into play. This just isn't long enough. But I do like that we get multiple tests of these bids. I like that there's multiple layers of bids. I like that the tests, at 932, 933 are holding. I like the bid restacking. And a lot of people in my room hit this. It was great. And this was one of those plays where even if you have a smaller size, the percent move is just so massive. And yeah, just crazy up halt. I only sold a little bit here just because you never know what possible long trappy stall. I had a trade on XTIA, for example. The reason I sell a lot of longs at levels like these is stuff like this, where if you hold for high day on every single one of these market open longs, you're going to get price action like this eventually, where you get ultra aggressive moves at high day that pull back and fade. I thought this was great because this was barely up on a day, nice volume, soaked, just didn't go anywhere. But I always have a habit of selling into these pushes just because you never quite know what type of long trap, especially in a market where I think things were actually picking up. I thought Friday was really interesting with KVL and LGVN multi-day runner, KVL massive squeeze. I thought, by the way, Again, had multiple people hit this long on Friday or on LGPN. In a room, we talk about these long traps and the short trap rotations, right? Where, you trap longs on a rotation, you shake them out at support, then you do the real rotation. Talk a lot about that in the room. And yeah, so I mean, just really nice bid support on the woman at 200. I like the walk down. I like the paint. Just the volume could have been a little better. And sadly, shares were pretty expensive. I do want to talk about the topping action. Topping action is really interesting. So, a big part of me selling into the top, because also I think a problem some people have when trading these plays is they sell too much too early. And the way I view selling is, I try to sell at some type of, aggressive long trap area. Maybe it stalls here and goes back. But once it starts, up halt right after high day is always nice. A lot of times it gets really aggressive. Sell more to just sell the strength. Selling the strength is never a bad idea. Just how when you short and you get a massive knife through support, a lot of times not a bad idea to cover, depending on where it's at and how much you're up and that type of thing. But yeah, so, the big volume comes in, so you want to be careful on the short side. But the price action I thought was most interesting was, we'll talk about my sells. So they did a classic little trick on this 953 candle, right? And this is where price action starts to get increasingly more bearish. Obviously, zoom out. The more aggressive something pushes, the less support there is on the backside. So you do want to be, just so you know, if you're in a long that's going straight up, you might think, oh, it's so strong, I'm going to keep holding. But it's actually kind of the opposite. I have to be more aggressive because how aggressively it's pushing, because there's often a lack of bid support. So even profit taking, not only are the entries counterintuitive, but the profit taking is counterintuitive, right? And a lot of that is reflected on the book. Not surprised that the first dump gets reclaimed. It's trading it went from 200K to 500K to 1 million shares, increasing volume. So short trap off the 1 to 9 is not too crazy to think about, but it's when it starts to get up here that you start to see bids getting pulled at lower levels, right? And you start to see, I saw these bids get pulled too. So I saw these bids get pulled, and now the book is becoming increasingly thinner, right? And you can start to see the air pockets start to form, like here. And now you're risking, what if this one bid fails, that's why you get these huge knife candles, right? And suddenly your long that's suddenly at 815 is now in the 770s, and it could go, obviously it did a secondary push, but it could go into the low sevens. And bids getting pulled, big gaps in the liquidity levels. It's usually a sign to take profits, right? Especially the more aggressive the move is. It's usually a sign to, and a lot of times I just learn, I was up so much on this that there's just no reason not to just if it's went to $12 or $15, I just want to be in it. It's just how it is. One part I did think was interesting was, I saw some people in my room were shorting pretty early, like here. And I like to be a little more patient when it comes to taking these shorts. I will say, here's a good example of what I've been talking about earlier. On these hyperextended moves, a lot of times the 1 minute 20 long doesn't work, right? But the risk is, it's not that. By the way, I didn't have shares, so it didn't matter. It didn't matter for me, but I was telling my room, I was like, the risk isn't that this doesn't work. The risk is this long traps, it pulls back, maybe swipes a support level and then rotates later. You never know what, especially on increasing volume, what lower high is going to contribute to chart paint later on. However, I thought this candle was extremely interesting. This is the classic soak in the seller candle, right? So it swipes the 1 minute 20, it pops back up, and it had literally the perfect book on that. which was right here at 1013, 1014. Here's a support swipe. Here's asked following this down, right? A lot of times market, and this is a classic little, and this is a good short pattern, right? A lot of times, like, market makers will stack ask to do some type of liquidity move, get those asks filled. You know, new asks getting filled on a potential long trap pattern is really nice. So I was like, man, this is definitely, like, I would have probably just passed on this type of price action, but this I thought was really, really, really nice. And then, not only that, we zoom out. We have painted higher lows, right? Higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, right? Makes the crack much more likely, especially with the ask pushing this down. And then the only thing that really matters is what is the reaction, because kind of like the long thesis here would be to shake everybody out and then rotate it back up to squeeze these painted lower highs, right? So you always have to be cognizant of that. That being said, if you have a great average on a great long trap pattern, a lot of times it is worth it just to hold through this because you never quite know what's going to happen. And yeah, this would have been one of those times where, and also you got to keep in mind, again, the overt aggressiveness of this push makes this long trap pattern also better, right? Huge, massive squeeze, up only squeeze. Nice little seller in the soak here. And yeah, so would have been nice. Would have caught it both ways, but sadly, so I think shares were like 40 cents. And it faded $3. So what do I know? What do I know about reserving shares? So anyways, that's it for today. If Mikey makes an MBIO video, I highly recommend checking it out. Awesome penny runner, dude. Absolutely nutty. By the way, fake VWAP resistance. Right here in my Discord, I was like, oh, hey, it's rotating through the fake VWAP resistance. Now, I thought maybe it would rotate up to like 38. But look at the volume, dude. Absolutely nutty volume. This is why I'm never, I'm not, you'll notice I don't short penny stocks because I'm on Trade Zero, but also I could just go to a different broker where I can short penny stocks, but I'm very hesitant because I put penny stocks in their own category, separate from low floats, and I inherently think penny runners with tons of volume are bullish. And the price action in the book is slightly different than what you get on low floats. I just think for making short reads, reading the book on low floats is, I don't know if I'm just more used to it, or if it's just easier, but that's why I kind of stick to that. So anyways, yeah, check out Mikey's video if he posts one. Crazy, crazy runner. Look at this thing. So anyways, that is it for today. No shorts. TRNR. Turns out I don't need to pay for shares because I click my long buttons, so that's always a good thing. So anyways, you can do both. You don't have to stick to one. You can do both things. So anyways, that's it for today. You guys have a good one.